Hey guys, welcome to today's episode where we are going to be talking all about handover for newbies, for those of you who are absolutely petrified of doing your first handover. Trust me, I've been there. The point of today's video isn't to overcomplicate handover, it's to do the opposite. I want to simplify it for you. I want to ease your anxieties that you've got surrounding handover, because it's one of the most nerve-wracking things about becoming a new nurse. It is a form of public speaking, so yeah, it's a totally normal thing to be a bit nervous about, and the point of today's video is to make it a lot smaller than this big thing that we've made it to be in our heads. So I wanted to touch on briefly the point of handover, which is just to hand over key information to the nurse who is taking over care. The most important, essential information that the nurse needs to know then and there, and to give them a very brief snapshot of what is going on for them. That is all. It doesn't need to be this really big, thorough thing, especially when you're first starting out doing this really thorough, in-depth handover is just unrealistic, and if we get caught up on the little parts, that's when we can actually start to miss out the key information. Alright, so my first point is to use a framework. If you're in Australia, this might be IS or ISOBAR. I personally don't use those, but really just sit down and have a think, even a few practice runs to yourself of how you would hand a patient over, and really just get it stuck in your brain of the kind of ingredients or the structure of the handover. I prefer to just speak through the way that I write my notes. A brief overview of the patient, basically their diagnosis, why they are in hospital, and briefly what treatment they're receiving. So, like a hospital-acquired pneumonia, here for antibiotics. Came in with chest pain, here for telemetry monitoring. Just a very brief synopsis like that of the patient, and then I run through my bodily systems, and then I do the doctor's plan. So similar to how I write my notes, so I've got something off the top of my head to run off. My next tip is to write it down, okay? Write it down and prepare your handover beforehand. This is such a massive tip, especially when you're first starting out, and if you are someone who is really afraid of public speaking like what I was, this is definitely something that I would recommend for you to do. It just really takes a lot of the pressure off of you if you do lose your words or lose what you're going to say, and also ensures that if there's any key information that you're not going to forget it. Also make sure it is neat, okay? Make sure that whatever you're writing down is neat and legible, because there's no point in preparing your handover if you're going to look down at your sheet and not be able to read your own writing or figure out what order you've written everything in. I encourage you, if you are working on a busy ward, and even if you're not, just while you're getting into the hang of handing over, to write your handover on the back of your shift planner in a neat and legible way. It's just going to make you feel so much more structured and at ease in the way that you're speaking, rather than stressing where you're up to. And I have a shift planner if that's something that you're interested in and something that you want to check out. I'll link it down below. My thought process was that you are using a shift planner every shift anyway. Why not actually have one that's going to work for you and help you with your handovers? My next tip is don't storytell and don't ramble in your handovers, okay? I want you to imagine that there is a little timer going off in the background, not to put pressure on you, but just to make sure that you are thinking about what is the key information that needs to be relayed over in that handover, because you don't have that much time between shift changeovers. If there is a kind of complicated incident or something that needs some explaining, just try and condense it down as much as you can. And also only hand over abnormalities. This is one of my top tips for new grad nurses, okay? When we get taught how to hand over in nursing school, we get taught this really thorough A to E, head to toe handover, and the truth is we don't always have that much time to do a full handover like that. They're great and there's nothing against them, but they're not realistic. And I feel like the real skill when it comes to handing over is figuring out from that information what are the key things that need to be handed over, what are the most important things for that nurse. So in that case, an easy way for you to figure that out is what are the abnormalities, okay? If there are no abnormalities, then you can just hand over alert, orientated, independent, and scoring a 0. Those are the 4 most important things your nurse is going to want to hear about your assessment for that patient. I also want you to be prepared for giving brief handovers. There are nurses out there who prefer to just have a brief handover. Those nurses will usually tell you to speed things up or give you the heads up. I personally like a longer handover. It takes a lot of the reading work out of it for me. I like getting as much information as I can about the patient as long as it's essential, but you will get nurses who don't really want to know the nitty gritty. They just want to know the absolute basics, 30 seconds to a minute max handover. So just be prepared to be caught off guard and be asked to speed your handover up. In those cases, just mention the upcoming outstanding tasks and really important abnormalities. My next tip is to not be afraid of bedside handover. Bedside handover is your friend, okay? It might seem intimidating, but as long as you can keep yourself calm, you'll see why it's actually such a great tool. Not only have you got the patient there to refer to jog your memory, you've also got the patient who can input any of their own questions, perhaps things that you've forgotten to mention. So I actually really like bedside handover for that reason. It picks up on a lot of missed information or outstanding tasks. Don't underestimate it and don't be afraid of it. If you haven't seen my last video where I speak about how you can set your first and every shift up for success, there's a checklist and a kind of step-by-step process that I run through there that you can also use at the end of your shift to make you feel more prepared. So if you haven't seen that video, I definitely encourage you to check that out. It just gives you the peace of mind that you need when entering handover. Just remember, guys, you don't have to be years out of nursing school to be able to give a great handover. The most important thing of handing over is just being able to hand over essential information. If you can pick up on what that is, typically all of your abnormalities and any outstanding tasks within the doctor's plan, then you are sweet. You've given a good handover, so just relax and take the pressure off of yourself. It's not as hard and as complicated as you think. I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Let me know if you did in the comments down below. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.